Okay, so it seems it works. So good afternoon to you all, and thank you very much for joining me in this session about the mediation process and the attorney's role. I'm Javier Fernández-Lasquetty. I'm an attorney. I'm also professor of IP law at the IE Law School, and I'm also a mediator. So my point of view, or my presentation this afternoon, will be about the role of the attorney in the role of the lawyer in the mediation process. And let me tell you something about me so that you understand my point of view. I'm an attorney, as I said. I'm a litigator. I've been litigating for the last, let's say, some 39 years. And I discovered the mediation some 15 years ago. And I decided that it could be a good tool for my clients in order to solve problems. And that's why I've learned a lot. I've do something and do some mediations, etc., and I became a fan of the mediation because it's an effective way of solving problems for our clients. So let's start by giving you some ideas why the mediation it could be useful for a lawyer. Well, if you take a look to this chart, you will see that litigation could have an important could significant an important investment or expense for our clients. I'm talking about international litigation. I mean, but it also could be a very good and a very important investment for our clients locally. If you take a look to this chart, you will see that the expenses for the client will be so high. Of course, it depends on the jurisdiction. I'm from Spain, and if you take a look to the Spanish information, well, the cost of trademark litigation case could range from 15 to 30,000 in the first instance, and 10 to 15,000 in the appeal. And it will take some 12 months in the first instance and some 24 months in the appeal. Well, this is, I would say, something so common, at least in Europe. If you take a look to other countries, you will see that something similar in France, Germany, Italy, etc. If you move to other countries, such as the UK, the cost will be much higher. This also applies to other countries such as the US. So in certain jurisdictions, the investment for a litigation case will be very high. So if you think on other possibilities, I think you should think on other possibilities in order to solve the problem. What is the client, and what is you looking for when trying to solve an issue? What are you considering when doing this, when entering into a possible litigation or a possible way to solve problems? Well, as you can see in this chart, well, the cost is always one of the issues, could be the most important issue, both in international and domestic litigation or domestic contracts. And time is the second one. You see it's a 59 or 57% of the importance that is given to the way of solving things using one way or another. And afterwards, there's something that could change from international litigation to domestic litigation. The question of enforceability is, of course, very important in international contracts and in international litigation. The quality of the outcome is always important. Confidentiality is a must, although confidentiality shouldn't be an issue if you go to litigation. And then other issues such as neutral forum and business solution are also considered. But if you take a look to the chart, and you see that the cost is one of the issues, well, I would say that the time, it also has a relation with the costs. I mean, if your client is in a litigation situation for a long time, this would affect its business. So there is a direct cost in litigation situation, and there is an indirect cost in this litigation situation. That is the time in which your business is stopped or is pending for a solution that is given by the courts. So is it possible to find a solution for our clients that would be better in terms of time and costs? Well, the answer is, or would be, mediation. At least that's my experience. And why? It's not so far from our activity. Okay, it's not so far. Negotiation is part of our business as lawyers. I mean, we are involved in negotiation in contractual and litigation matters. We negotiate when dealing with another party in a contract, but we also make a sort of negotiation during a process, one way or another, and it's part of our job. The only question is that when you are dealing with others and in business transactions, you have to deal with 4 people. I mean, there are 4 individuals. On one side could be the businessman and he's her lawyer, and on the other side there's another businessman, a businesswoman with her lawyer. So there are 4 individuals, and it could be considered something professional for both a businessman, businesswoman, and then lawyers. But there are always issues about the egos and the relationship between that 4 parties, etc. That's part of the human factor. So it's sometimes difficult to get into an agreement because of that type of human related issues. So that's why the mediation has come as a means for overcoming negotiation problems, and sometimes to create some other opportunities. What is mediation? Well, there are many definitions of mediation. Let me give you this one that's from Professor Robert Mnookin. Professor Mnookin is or was the director of the Harvard Negotiation Center, and it's an expert mediator, and it's an expert international mediator. And he says that mediation is a voluntary process in which the parties make decisions together and based on their understanding of their own views and the others and the reality they face. And the mediator works as a non-coercive neutral to help the parties to negotiate an agreement that serves them better than their alternatives. So I have highlighted the key issues here. The mediation is the voluntary negotiation process. I mean, you are on it, but you can abandon the mediation whenever you want, and nothing happens. That's not applicable to other ways of solving problems, such as the courts or arbitration. And what is also important is that the parties have to work together and must base their decisions or their deals on the point of view, but also on the point of view of the other party, and also taking into account the reality they are facing. So that's very important in order to understand what's mediation about. And the result is always an agreement between the parties. Or it could be that there is no agreement, but the result is an agreement. So it means that it will be much better enforceable than a court decision if it is the result of the agreement of the parties. And well, There are some differences between settlement, conciliation, mediation, arbitration, and mediation, etc., etc. Well, the settlement is a way of solving things, but there is no process on it. I mean, there is no method for it. Conciliation is used in certain jurisdictions in order to try to find out an agreement between the parties. But the difference is that is ruled or is managed by an authority, could be a judge, could be a clerk, a court clerk, could be, for instance, in IP, an officer of the PTO. And I know this happens in some jurisdictions, as Mexico and others, but this isn't something that is quite different to mediation, where there is no one that would have any type of authority over the parties in order to make them to enter into an agreement. And there's also something to be said about arbitration and mediation. Well, it's quite different, you know, because in arbitration, the arbitration is a regulated procedure and it's mandatory. I mean, if you have agreed on arbitration in an agreement, in a contract, no matter what you feel, what you say, well, you will be forced to comply with the award. I mean, you can't go away. Well, you can do it, but you will feel the consequences in an award that will be enforced. And the outcome is separated to the will of the parties because, well, it's very similar to something that is ruled by the judge, although there are quite big differences, you know, but it's a process. It's a process where there will be a decision from a third party. In mediation, it doesn't happen this way. It's an organized procedure, but it's not as organized or as ruled in a proceeding as it could be the arbitration. And it's voluntary. I've said many times, and I will say afterwards many other times. I mean, you can get it out from the mediation and nothing happens, or nothing should happen, you know. And the outcome reflects the will of the parties. This is very important because when you are going before a court or before an arbitration proceedings, the result will be something that you enjoy or not. But in mediation, if you get into an agreement, that should be something agreed by you, and consequently this will satisfy you. Otherwise there is no mediation agreement. So this make big differences between other ways of solving problems between the parties. I mean, contrary to court decisions and arbitration. Well, the mediation has had an evolution in the time. It started in the 70s in the US because of the high price of litigation in the US, and it has done a very big development in the 80s and 90s. And there was a stop in the change of millennium. I would say maybe because of a sort of abuse in mediation and misuse of mediation in America. And but there were some governmental incentives in order to rule much better the mediation process and to give quite clear clues and elements to be considered there. And I'm citing here three rules, three laws: the Uniform Mediation Act of 2000, the UNCITRAL Model Law, and also the European Directive of 2008, this is the one I'm most familiar with. That's made that all the European countries have now a mediation law that is more or less harmonized all over Europe. So those type of incentives from the governmental bodies foster the use of mediation in business cases. And well, there are still some issues to be considered in mediation. Some issues that are under discussion. I wouldn't like to get into big discussions, but it's true that there are some issues that are still on the table. The first and most hot topic is that should it be facilitative or evaluative? For those that are not familiarized with, the facilitative mediation is a way of doing the mediation where the mediator does not intervene, let's say, or does not say anything, but tries to make the parties to reach an agreement by themselves. Okay, that's very good, but sometimes you will see that the parties in a conflict, and in some type of conflicts that are between specialist companies in sophisticated businesses, etc., require some sort of let's say intervention or active attitude of the mediator. And one of the cases is the IP, where the specialization is so high, and at least in my experience, either as a mediator and as an attorney in a mediation process, what I'm looking for and what I've seen that the parties are looking for is an expert. I mean, a person that knows what we are talking about. So those are the two ways. It doesn't mean that the mediator will act as a judge or as a arbitrator, but it means that the mediator knows about the business, so he's prepared to understand and maybe to give some suggestions to the parties in one to another. I mean, not together, etc. So this will help. Should the mediation be mandatory? Well, there are some arguments in favor of it, and in case of Europe, I would say that in Italy it was mandatory. Afterwards, this way was abandoned. Then when they came back, etc. In Spain, it was not mandatory, and now we are considering the possibility of being mandatory. There are other ways to make it mandatory, so as for instance in the UK, where the party that does not participate in the mediation may lose the costs and expenses of the court case, even in case she wins the case. So this is a very good incentive. Okay, what is the intervention of the lawyers? I will insist on it, but let me tell you, it's a different approach. I mean, you are not litigators, we are deal makers. Okay, so you must intervene. It is not only welcome, but I would say necessary, but your role as lawyer should change. I mean, you are not in a court case, so you are there to try to find out the best solution for your client. Okay, it's confidential, of course, and the best mediation is that never exists, and it's enforceable by itself. I mean, it should be enforceable by itself. It is true that in some jurisdictions there are some rules in order to make it enforceable, etc., etc. Well, that's good, but from my point of view, the best enforceability is that is coming from the convictions from the ideas or the consideration of the parties that this is the agreement they need in order to solve the solution. And mediator for everything, well, there's a big discussion about it. From my point of view, it's arguable that you can be mediator for everything, but well, it's because I say that, well, I like facilitative evaluative mediation, and this works in the IP world, as I said before. And to be mediator and then arbitrator, well, sometimes it's requested by some clients, but it's not advisable from my point of view. Let's go to what is looking for, what to the parties are looking for. Well, it is important, and this is something that, well, you should consider when you are a mediator, but also if you are a party in the mediation, you are the attorney of one of the parties. The mediation, in the mediation, the mediator should look for the parties' expectations, should meet the expectations of the parties. And there is an idea that is called the iceberg theory, where it says that there's a part that is expressed by the parties during the negotiation, or if for instance, in a legal process before a court, or before an arbitration process. But there are always hidden things. I mean, something that is a part of the iceberg you can see, but it exists, that is there. So it's part of the role of the mediator to try to find out these hidden ideas and misunderstandings and things like that, in order to overcome, so that to put on the table everything that should be considered by the parties without any type of problem that may arise from these misunderstandings. Okay. Also, creating opportunities is something that is very important, and this makes a big difference with other type of ways of solving problems. I mean, it's not possible in a court proceeding or in an arbitration to find out a solution that is based on new opportunities. And I will tell you afterwards some examples in which the parties in a mediation process can find something that could be useful in order to solve the problems, and it was not on the table when they started with the mediation process. Okay. I've mentioned before that we have to take into account the hidden aspects of the dispute, and also the cultural factor. These factors, this is quite important in international mediation, where you can find people from different countries and different cultures, different ways of doing things, different attitudes, etc. For instance, for people in Japan, moving the hands is not very welcome. You know, they don't like it at all. While in other cultures, such as for Italians or even for Spaniards, moving the hands it doesn't matter. You know, and there are many cultural issues that should be taken into account in international mediation, but also in national mediation, there are cultural elements to be considered. Okay, well, coming from this, the consequences or the conclusion is, well, there is a method for the mediation. Of course, we will see this afterwards, but mediation is not a religion. Okay, so there's no liturgy that has to be followed as if we were in a church or something like this. So it means that, well, there are some steps to be taken, but you must be flexible. And this is one of the obligations, let's say, of the mediator, but it's also one of the obligations of the attorney, of the lawyer. It doesn't mean that you have to discuss about everything the other party would like to, but as we will say, as we will see afterwards, there's something to be considered by the parties previously to entering into the mediation process, so that they are prepared to move from one position to another, prepared to consider other aspects that were not part of the conflict that came to the table at the very beginning, etc., etc. So that makes the mediation so different, and that makes mediation so useful from my point of view. What is the role of the lawyer in the mediation process? Well, let's go step by step. I say, well, first of all, you are not litigating. You are trying to reach an agreement. So make up your mind, okay? That's the first issue. But there are many issues to be considered. Well, first of all, the clause. Well, here's the mediation clause of WIPO. You can find it in the WIPO Mediation and Arbitration Center. And this is for future cases. I mean, when you are trying to put a clause in an agreement, but you can also use this clause when you are dealing with a case in which there was no clause at all, but you consider that could be a solution. Well, my advice here is that please do not try to be, especially in the previous one, please do not try to be innovative. Do not try to create anything. Just fill the blank spaces, and that's all. Because otherwise, you may create a big problem if you modify the clause and afterwards the clause is challenged by the other party or whatever you may consider. So please try to use the forms, okay, and just fill in the blank spaces, and that's all you have to do as lawyers, okay. Your work will come afterwards. So what's first? Well, if we are facing a mediation process, the first thing is to be prepared for the mediation, okay. So this means that you have to instruct your client and to give your client the idea of what mediation is, okay. So this means that you have to study about mediation before teaching your client, you know, but it's very important. And you have to explain the process and explain the possible outcome. I mean, the outcome will be basically an agreement or a non-agreement. If there is no agreement, we will have the doors open to go to other places, such as arbitration or to the courts. But the possible outcome is an agreement, and we will talk about the possible agreements in a few minutes. Okay, and try to figure out with your client which is the schedule and the terms. I mean, how much time we would like to spend on this, and when do you think it will be necessary to have an outcome, and what you think will be acceptable or not in terms of scheduling the sessions, etc., etc., etc. You must be realistic. I have a different approach. The approach I said, I mean, you are deal makers. You are not litigators here. And finally, it's good to make essays and simulation, okay? Like actors in theater, it's good to see your script and see what you are gonna do, and practice with the parties. I mean, because sometimes you will see that your client will be called by the other party, or by even sometimes by the mediator, to express opinions or to give ideas, etc. So it's good to know that you keep control on your client and know perfectly the way she will answer the questions or will intervene, etc. Especially in order to try to avoid any type of reaction that may be considered as rude or inconvenient by the other party, because this will not help the process itself. Okay, so that's very, very important. Make simulations, making essays. And second, and very important, risk analysis. As I said before, I'm a litigator, okay? I'm also a mediator, and I'm an attorney in mediation. So it means that, well, I like mediation, but it's not the only way of solving things. So what are you looking for? What is your client looking for? And try to answer these questions. I mean, are you trying to resolve this dispute, or you would like to establish a precedent? I mean, this guy is doing these nasty things, and I would like to make this I would like to have a punishment on him, so that this is a warning for the market. Well, if that's the case, mediation is not your solution. I mean, you have to go to the court. But would you like to resolve this dispute? Well, that's the only thing you want to do. Well, mediation is a good tool. Second, and very, very important, we like to preserve relations, or a principle of relations, or you are not interested, or you don't care at all. Because, you know, at least in my experience in the IP, there are some sectors, there are sectors that are small worlds, you know. There is a limited number of players. So if you go to litigation, if you go to arbitration, well, you will have an award or a decision, a court decision, but this will or would harm the relationships. So this meaning that probably you can, even in case you win the case, it will be very, very difficult in the future that you do business with the same company in the future. Okay, so if you want to preserve the relations, mediation is a tool, because at the end of the story, you will have an agreement. So it means that the relationship has not been harmed. There is no injuries for the parties. There's only an agreement. Okay. The other side of the coin, I mean, you want to avoid a precedent or deter the filing of future lawsuits. Well, if you want to imagine that someone would be entitled to sue you because you have made something wrong in an agreement. Well, and there are others that could be following this first case. Well, if you want to avoid this precedent, well, mediation is a solution for your case. Do you need creative solutions or just justification? Well, if you believe that you only need a decision, an award on this and that, I mean, on money or something like this, well, you can consider alternatives such as court decision or arbitration. But if you would consider some creative solutions as something that would enlarge the business of the parties, make concessions to the other party, etc., well, mediation is the tool. And confidentiality, would like to keep it outside of the market, or would like to establish a precedent? I mean, to make a voice in the market saying that happens, and look, that happens with that guy. Well, but normally confidentiality is something that is very important in the solution of the problems from the parties. Okay, and final one, is it transnational or domestic? I mean, are there cost implications or cultural implications in court proceedings and things like that that would make the problem difficult or expensive to solve through other means? Well, if that's the case, and we will see one of the cases I will mention to you afterwards, well, mediation is a good tool for this, because the cost will be much lower compared to the one that could be expectable from litigation or arbitration. So that type of risk analysis is necessary to be done with the client. So you first to do this, you have to have the clear ideas in your mind. Okay, that will help you to take a decision together with the client. Okay, I would like to make a mention that is not in the slides here, but I think that it's interesting for I think it's interesting for you, and maybe you have consider, or this is around your mind. Is it mediation good for lawyers, or is litigation better for lawyers? Well, from my point of view as a litigator and as a mediator, well, I think that mediation is very good for a long-standing relationship, let's say. In my experience, the cases in which I have solved the problem through mediation, the client became very happy and comes back to my firm. Okay, because the sensation, the feelings of the client after the outcome are much better than the ones that she may feel in a litigation process, irrespectively from the fact that you win or you lose. I remember some time ago, it was in 2006, I think, in the UK, it was conducted a research on the law firms and about the feasibility of mediation, advantages, pros and cons, etc. And the report included opinions from big and medium-sized law firms in the UK. Remember that the UK, the litigation is very, very expensive. Well, the final result of this request was that mediation is not very good for the litigation department, but is very good for the firm. This means that maybe the fees for the lawyer are lower in a mediation process, but the client will come back. So this is something that you should consider when trying to solve problems for your client. In my experience, as I said before, I have very good clients that are coming from a wide variety of matters, not only for solving problems, and it's just because we solve a first case through mediation. So something that you should bear in mind, okay? The second part, well, you are here, you have made this analysis, and well, something that you have also to perform is that sometimes is necessary, some other times it's not, because the other party is convinced. I mean, the lawyer of the other party, fundamentally, is to obtain the consent of the other party. Okay, and you have to make something. You have to convince the other party about the good things that may come from the mediation, as I said before, a non-binding proceeding, the possibility of finding an agreement that takes the question out of the court and without so much costs, etc., etc., etc. So will be part of it. I will mention this in one of the cases I've dealt some years ago. And preparing the case, well, strategy in the mediation, that's very, very important. As I said before, you start in the mediation, and you can say, well, that's it, I would like to continue, I'm out, I will get out of the mediation. Well, you can do it just because the other party has said something that is disgusting or something like this, but this is not a professional way of doing things. What you have to do is to consider all the possible outcomes the mediation process would have, your needs, your flexibility, etc., 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 in order to determine, as a script in a film, how you would like the film to roll out. I mean, how it will be recorded. And Batna and Watna is a coin expression in mediation, is the best alternative of non-agreement, or worst alternative to non-agreement. And it's a simple, well, could be complicated sometimes, but simplifying is a method by which the party decides or determines what is better for him compared to an agreement, and what is worse for him compared to an agreement. So it means that, well, if we reach an agreement and it's in this and that terms, well, are there any other possible solutions by means of arbitration or mediation that would be better? Or if we reach an agreement, is it good or bad, considering that could be something that could be worse to this? I mean, to have the decision, etc. This type of analysis, simulations, etc., are very, very important. And coming from this, you have to have a clear idea of your objectives in the mediation. I mean, sometimes I've seen that some parties haven't prepared properly the mediation, and got fascinated, let's say, by the mediation process. so that they were able to find out an agreement without thinking, I wouldn't say without thinking so much, but without thinking properly about each and every aspect that should be considered. So that's why I insist on that you have to work with your client, preparing the mediation, and know perfectly what is the scope, what is the nature of the conflict, what is the scope of the mediation, what are the possible outcomes, which of the possible outcomes would be acceptable for you, etc., etc., in order to have an idea of what you expect from the mediation, so that if you take the decision to get out of the mediation, it is based on rational elements rather than emotional elements. Okay. And then the development of the mediation process includes some parts. First, selection of the center. Well, there are many in the world. I must confess I'm a mediator from WIPO, so I will always recommend the WIPO Mediation and Arbitration Center. Look for the one that fits better with your requirements. Take a look to the rules, etc., how it works. The mediators and arbitrators, for instance, in WIPO, there are some 1,500 mediators and arbitrators. It's an open list, etc., and it's full of experts in IP. But there could be others that could be interesting. The second issue to be considered is the selection of the mediator, well, there could be some recommendations from the centers, etc. But if the parties agree on the mediator, that could be a very good solution. Otherwise, the center, either WIPO or other, would propose you a list of mediators, and there could be a process there where the parties may agree on the mediator, or alternatively, the center would designate a mediator from the list that were proposed, and doing some exercises of first, the second, and third choice, etc., etc. So it's something that I wouldn't like to enter so much, but there are many ways to try to find out an agreement on who will be the mediator. And sometimes it's convenient, or could be advisable, to have a co-mediation if you believe that the case has different facets or different elements to be considered. Well, it could be good to have let's say an expert from of one part of the process, and to have another one from the other part of the process. I mean, to the other aspects of the problem. Sorry. So that's also possible. It's not very common, but it may be advisable in some cases. Okay. Then first contacts with the mediator. Well, that's very important. Once the mediator is agreed, and the mediator accepts the mediation because has no problems at all, no conflicts of interest and things like that, the first contacts would be should be ruled by the lawyers, because there are some technical issues to be considered, such as the time, the place, and participants, and other conditions, and documents to be used, statements, etc. So this seems a little bit similar in some cases to judicial proceedings, but the parties will decide. I mean, the documents that could be useful, the place, the time, etc. So it's very open to the decisions that the party may find, in order to have this process better fit the requirements of the parties. Okay, something that is very important: the issues to be addressed, the delimitation of the subject matter and the scope of the mediation. Yes, because in my experience, and well, in the common experience of almost all the mediators, well, it's difficult to find a case where everything has to be discussed. I mean, there could be things, or could be facts, or could be issues that are not under discussion, and some others that are. So it's important to indicate to the mediator and to agree with the other party that those are the issues that should be discussed. This will reduce the time spent on the process, the efforts of the parties, and the effort of the mediator, and consequently the fees that will be paid to the mediator. That's always also important. And well, I've mentioned before, it's important to determine the documentation that will be submitted by the parties, because it's not necessary to create a pile of documents of everything that is around this case, and this also will reduce the fees of the mediator, because he will not be forced to examine lots and lots of documents so as to have an idea on what's going on, what's the nature of what's happening in the case. Okay. The development of the process. Well, assuming that there has been an exchange of information, of statements, etc., etc. Well, there is something that is a mediation session, and it's in the pre-COVID world used to be face-to-face, and it starts with a plenary session where the parties are called to express their ideas and thoughts, and exchange information, etc., etc. That's the most, let's say, risky moment of the mediation, because normally the parties come to the mediation still having in mind all that elements that I've mentioned before, presumptions, false ideas, etc., etc., and would like to express something that could be bad for the mediation, because the other party will not accept some types of statements and things like that. Well, after this plenary session, we go to what we call the caucus. Caucus are meetings with the parties on one side and on the other side, and this has to be done in as many times as it is necessary. And this is a process where the mediation goes to a moment in which the parties can determine what is acceptable, what is not from this agreement, this potential agreement, and the mediator has to gather as much information as possible in order to figure out or have an idea on where could be the possible agreement. There could be a back and forth caucus and plenary sessions, and if you fix the parties are capable to fix the possible elements of the agreement, that would be the final part of the path to the agreement. And it may depend on the mediation. It could take 1 day or could take 2 days, but when the parties are capable to fix in a piece of paper, which will be the elements for a negotiation, that would be much better. I mean, there are some elements to consider that there could be an agreement. And finally, there's a conclusion by, and it depends on times the mediator has a treated, and this facilitates the agreement itself, because it's not a white piece of paper. I mean, someone, I mean, the mediator has included issues that should be considered, and this will help the parties. And sometimes it is part of the work of the lawyers of the parties to conclude the agreement and to discuss the elements to be considered. Okay, so this is the process, and let me tell you some cases about mediation. I have some, let's say, 15 minutes. I will try to express or indicate the main issues of it, because I would like to make some considerations about online mediation. Okay. Case number 1, Montebello versus Bellomonte. Of course, those are not the real names of the trademarks, but this is a conflict that came from a Latin American company and a Spanish company. The Latin American company tried to register Montebello in Spain, but the Spanish company had a registered trademark called Bellomonte and filed an opposition against it. And well, the parties entered into a mutual knowledge, let's say, because no one was aware about the other until the moment in which the Latin American party, came to the Spanish business. And well, they noticed that there were some other trademark applications and registration. And for instance, in Argentina, there were trademarks from the parties in different years, but from a long time ago. And there were also some applications for the trademarks on one country or another. And if you take a look to the picture as a whole, you will see that the possible outcome of this situation would be an intense and longer standing process of cases before that different jurisdictions. The parties try to solve that issue, that problem in a single shot. I mean, by making a mediation. And well, there were a mediation process in which the parties were so angry one to another because of the type of business the other was conducting, etc., etc. I wouldn't like to enter into much details, but let's say that there was some hidden questions there. And the final result was that they found a coexistence agreement, a global coexistence agreement, and further to this, they entered into a cooperation agreement because they found that there were some business that could match one to another, and that they could make business together. Is a very interesting case of trademarks. And let me tell you about this other one in which I participated directly, and I know it very well. It's a case of patents, and it's a case about a French company, a very French company, like Asterix and Obelix, and a very Spanish research center, okay, like the Spanish bull. So this is I'm telling you this because the human factor here was so strong, as I will say afterwards in a few moments. Okay, so it was something very technical. It's a pharma patent license option, and the subject matter was a second therapy patent. And as you know, this is a possibility in the patent field, and it was a set of, or a bunch of elements for the treatment of disease, and coming from different fields, but used as a second therapy for treatment of an eye illness. Okay, and the parties saw that it would be difficult to enter into an agreement immediately, so that they have to examine many issues about the different components that could be used for that second therapy, etc. So that they decided to enter into an option agreement for a patent license. Okay, and they decided also to not also to execute the option, but also to fix in a term sheet the possible or potential conditions for the agreement, for the license agreement. The level of description of the obligations of the party was not enough from my point of view, but well, they decided to do this, and there were some misunderstandings that I will talk about afterwards. But one of the bad things for the Spanish company, for the Spanish institutions, was that they accepted that the jurisdictions would be in a village where the French company had its headquarters. Okay, bad decision. And well, the French company exercised the option, and they started the negotiation of the terms. And well, there were some discussions, not about the license fee, not about the scope of the license, but some technical issues I would like to enter into, because I haven't so much time. So they decided to break the relationships, and the French company send a letter saying that we have broken the conditions, etc., and they will go to court. And the court was in France, and the court was in that small village where the company had its headquarters, and it was not a professional court. It was what they call Tribunal de Commerce. That is a commercial court composed by members of the Chamber of Commerce. So you can imagine the possible outcome of a decision. And on top of that, the costs of the litigation would be very, very high. And well, this was very concerning for our side, but also the situation was also concerning for the other side, because, you know, the other party, the French company, was also thinking that it would be, they could have a possible positive decision from a court, from a Spanish court, from a French court, but this decision would be very, very difficult to enforce in Spain with against a public research institute. So that we went into the mediation process, in which we choose the WIPO mediation because we found it, let's say, very, very neutral, etc. And the WIPO helped us to find the right mediator. I remember that the first proposal was a German professor of a specialist in pharmaceutical patents, and both parties at that time, with the lawyers of the two parties, were in touch, and we didn't see the other party as a devil, something like this. So we went to a rational position, so that we decided that the mediator should be someone that could be a specialist in license agreements, pharma products license agreements, and flexibility of WIPO was very important. And we determined that the times, periods, venue, etc., and the initial allegations. After this, they decided how the process would be conducted, and we decided, well, as the head of both the French company and the institution, the Spanish institution, were very tough people, very strong character people. It is better that they are outside of the meeting. I mean, we will establish a hotline by telephone, so that only people from the financial department, from the commercial department, from the technical scientific department will go to the mediation session, and we will have them outside of the negotiation. Something funny, we have a preliminary meeting with a breakfast, and that was very, very funny, because it was a very good idea from the mediator. We did some caucuses and discovered many things that were make us go to the conclusion that it was not possible to reach an agreement in the mediation session, but we found a solution one to another, and finally we notified to the WIPO. I must say that this is not very normal. Okay, the normal outcome of the mediation session is the agreement. Okay, and not to postpone this, but it happens that time. Let me tell you rapidly other cases. This trademark coexistence agreements between different countries, the different trademarks, etc., etc. I think I will shift to this because we haven't so much time. I'm spending my hour, I believe. So this is something similar to the one I've mentioned before. In Asia, there was a set of discussions and the positions about trademarks, and it was solved in 4 months by means of mediation in Singapore, and administered by the WIPO Center, and with a mediator from the WIPO Center. Okay. IT contract. Well, you see the outcome. Well, it's a typical case in the IT field. I mean, a client and an IT provider, and there are discussions about. Sorry, Siri is trying to. I was saying that it was the typical problem of service provider, IT service provider. So at the end of the mediation, the result was a new license agreement between the parties, and reconsideration of price, time, and features of the system. And some thoughts about mediation using electronic means. Well, what do you have to consider here? Well, as I said in other occasion, mediation, online mediation, or mediation using electronic means has come to stay, especially in international mediation, but also in mediation that refers to countries, big countries such as Brazil, where the distances are so long, and it's sometimes very boring to go or to one city or to another. So, and you can imagine what happens in an international environment where there's not only the question of long distance, could be longer, could be even longer, but also the question of the travel expenses and other expenses that you have to incur, and some other issues that could made harder the face-to-face mediation. So it's here, and it will stay. So be prepared for this. And on the other hand, I must say that in international mediation, some electronic means were very common. I mean, it is very common that you have the first contact with the other party, or with the mediator through a telephone, through Teams, or any other platform. And part of the process already was an online process, you see. And this the question is that the mediation session will be substituted by an electronic or an online mediation session. So what you have to consider here, first of all, consider the asymmetries between the parties in the use of the technology. Okay, not all people, everybody's ready to speak, but not everybody is ready to speak through electronic means. Okay, so that's very important. Try to check this if you are a party, and it's mandatory for the mediators to respect the principle of equality, and try to see that the parties are ready to conduct these mediation sessions through electronic means. Okay, there are some changes in the classic program of action in the mediation phases, the exchange of information, etc., etc. But especially in the mediation session, because you have to have at least 3 rooms. I mean, one for both, 2 for the parties, I mean, one party and the other one, and a third one that will be common. Okay, and so that you have to emulate the situation that you would face in a face-to-face mediation. And this will drive you to be sure on the capabilities of the platform, okay, so that it fits into the requirements of the parties. So this is something that you should take into account, and it's important to have a plan B. I mean, if something fails, how can we continue with mediation? Well, you normally can. Well, you can postpone the mediation session, but there could be also other means, such as using cell phones instead of the platform if it fails, at least for a time while the technical problems are solved. Okay, something that is important: be prepared for a longer time, and time is money. Yes, because in our experience, the online mediation takes a longer time in the mediation session, because it's not a single session, could be some 2, 3, 4 sessions. And as it depends on the schedule of the parties, this will make it longer time. And you should consider this when making a proposal of fees to your clients. Okay, it's not as it is in face-to-face mediation. Something that is important is guaranteeing the identity of the participants. Well, if you know the other party, that's okay. Otherwise, you have to find out solutions such as electronic signatures or things like that, in order to ensure that the parties that are there, or the parties that are sending documents are really the parties that are doing this, and the parties that are present are the parties that are in the mediation. And it's important to guarantee the double confidentiality, that is regarding meetings and the exchange of documents. It is always necessary that you guarantee, as mediator, you guarantee to the parties that you will not share with the other party any information that you are not authorized to do, to share. It is important also that you indicate to one party that you have had a meeting with the other parties. And it's also important that the parties know perfectly which are the documents that you have exchanged with I mean, that the other party has exchanged some documents with you as mediator. It doesn't mean that you have a copy of it, but you must identify and say to the other party that the other party has shared some information in form of document with you. And in an electronic or online environments, that is especially important, because you are not present. I mean, your presence is through a screen, you know. And that's why I say that building a relationship of trust is more important than ever in this new environment. And that makes preparation much more important than before, because you have to consider all the aspects I've mentioned at the beginning of this slide, and only by only preparing it, you will be ready to find a good outcome for your client, or a good outcome for the parties if you are the mediator. Okay, and some examples. We are out of time, but let me tell you something. To startups in the United States, that's very simple, because they solve the issue by telephone caucus or calls, conversational calls, and other regarding trademark dispute of WIPO using WIPO mediation, using video conferencing, and something about software license dispute. The cases are the same nature, all those that I've mentioned before in face-to-face mediation. The only difference is the use of video conferencing means or electronic means in order to exchange documents or to have the relationship. It has been fostered by the pandemic. And but as I said before, there will be more in the future, because the parties have, well, generally speaking, I would say that the businesses have, business people have noticed that there is no need in this modern world to make so many business trips. Okay, if you can solve the problems by video conferences, and this will go, and it will go to the mediation, because the parties will see that it will not be necessary maybe to meet personally in order to go to this go to this mediation session. I think that we are reading some materials about online mediation and mediation using electronic means, and there are many readings about it, and this is one of the issues that we are considering, and will be part of the mediation in the future. So you can expect to have more information about online mediation in the near future. And I think that that's all I have I wanted to share with you. Unfortunately, this is not a face-to-face mediation. It's not a face-to-face session, but you can send me questions you may have by sending an email to my email address. So thank you very much. It has been a pleasure, and I hope to see you in other occasion. Thank you very much.